using session cookies isn't really the most convenient way of authenticating mobile devices and remembering the users associated with the mobile devices that are sending requests to your cloud service. So let me give you some examples of why sessions aren't ideal. So let's say that we have a server and we have access to various resources on that server. So we might be able to upload video. We might be able to delete video that's in our account. And we might be able to get a list of the videos that we've uploaded. Now, if I'm writing a cloud service that I intend for different mobile apps to use, I need a way of allowing some mobile app that's running on a device. So let's say we've got our Android device here, or some other device like an iPhone. We've got all of these different apps. So we've got app 1, app 2, and they're going to be sending requests to the server to get access to our video data. So you can imagine YouTube and other sites deal with stuff like this. And so app 2 may send requests to the server to get access to our video. App 1 may send requests to our server to get access to different aspects of the videos that we've uploaded. Now, how do those apps go and establish their identity and associate themselves with me and my user account so that they can get access to my information and either upload new videos or delete videos or list the videos that I've uploaded? Well, if we're just using the standard session approach that we've used before, where we create session cookies after logging in a login page, each app would basically display a login that would say, give us your username, and it would have a box, and then it would have a box for the password, and it would collect all of this information from me and then just pass it along to the server. And each of these apps might go about doing that. Now, let's say that I want to not have to log in every time. Well, this app may say, okay, well, you don't have to log in every time. I'll just store your username and password. And then this app says, oh, I'll store your username and password too. And very quickly, we get into this situation where our private information, our username and password, is being stored by all of these different apps. And the security of how well it's stored is determined by the weakest link. The first app in here that goes and stores it in plain text or doesn't do the proper encryption or other things, hashing to protect it, the easier it is for an attacker to gain access to it. So we don't really like this idea that we're going to provide our username and password to each app, and that each app is going to store that information and then provide it over and over again to the server. So that's one disadvantage of this model where we're going to use session cookies. Another disadvantage is, let's say that I really trust app 2. So this is an app that I really, really trust. I give it a little check mark here. I really trust app 2. This is an app that's produced by a really well-known app developer. But app 1, I sort of trust them, but I want to try that app out. Well, even though I trust this app a lot more, there's no way that I can differentiate the access that they should have to my account. So either one I'm going to give my username and password to, they're both going to be able to log into the server, and they're both going to have full access to my account. So they'll both be able to upload videos, delete videos, and list videos. And what if I really wanted to try this app out, but only give it the ability to list videos? Or maybe it only needs access to list videos. So let's say that this is just a viewer, a browser. Well, it shouldn't have access to upload and delete videos if it doesn't need the access. But with this username and password model, each app is going to potentially store, but at the very least get access to my username and password and be able to use it to authenticate with the server and do everything. So I don't really want every app to have full access to my account. And I especially don't want every app to have full access to my account if they don't need it. Because the more times I give out my username and password, the more apps that improperly protect it or store it, and the less that they actually need to use it, the more I'm exposing myself to a security vulnerability, the more I'm offering up my account to be attacked and compromised. So what we need is a way to allow apps to get access to certain resources that are associated with my account. So we want one app to just have access to list my videos, and maybe we want another app that we trust more to have access to listing the videos and to deleting them. So we're going to give this to app 2, this one to 1 and 2, and we're not going to give delete access to any of the apps because we don't trust any of the apps that much. Well, this type of model isn't supported well by a username and password that generates a session cookie that gets stored in an app and used to access data in my account. There's no granularity in the control of the access, and we have the fact that either we're providing the username and password to the app every single time we want to use it, or that app is storing it on disk. So it may be going and storing it somewhere on your device, and then this app may be going and storing your username and password somewhere else. Otherwise, they're forcing you to log in every time, and the app developers don't want to do that. So suddenly we're having our username and password stored all over the place. We can't govern access to the resources in our account on any type of granular level, and it ends up being a situation that's not ideal for a mobile environment and for the concept of having different apps that have access to different parts of our account. The model of storing usernames and passwords or requiring the user to provide them every time also has some other disadvantages that we don't really like in a mobile model. So let's say that we have multiple apps again that we are working with, that we want access to our data. So we have A1 again, and we've got a second app, and maybe you have other apps on multiple devices, so we might even have other devices where we've got yet more apps that also are getting access to our accounts. Maybe we've got a tablet, we've got some other things. So we've got all of these different apps. Well, suddenly we're storing our password in a lot of different places, for one, if these apps are storing it, or we're having to type it in over and over again. But we're also got some other things. Let's say that these apps are storing our password, which it's very possible that they are because they want to be convenient. And suddenly I want to change my password because this is something that is typically considered to be a good security practice, is to continually update and change your password. Well, every time I change my password, I'm going to have to go and change it here, 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 and here. So as a user, I'm going to start feeling probably a little lazier and thinking, I really don't want to go and have to update my password in 10 different apps every time I change it, so I won't change it as often. Another issue is that let's say I decide to give this app access. There's no way for the server to participate in the decision of what this app should be able to access. So for example, the server may want to say this app can only have access to certain things because that's just my policy. But the server's not involved in this process. You give your username and password to this app, and the app goes off and talks to the server. And the server doesn't get to decide what the app can or can't have access to. You tell the server it has access to my whole account. So the server isn't involved in the process at all. Another thing is, what happens if I decide that I no longer trust this app over here? So I don't trust this app, but I trust the other three. Well, the only way to revoke that trust of that first app, if it's storing my username and password, is I have to go and completely change my password on the server side so that this app can no longer log in. And the result is that this app is no longer going to have access, this app is no longer going to have access, and that app is going to no longer have access. So this username and password to get a session cookie, that model just doesn't really make sense for the mobile environment where we'll have multiple apps that will have access to our data and potentially need access to different subsets of our data. and we may trust some apps more than other apps. But if we're just sending a password and getting a session cookie back and letting whatever app wants it use it to get access to our full account, we're beginning to create all kinds of security problems that are at least not ideal situations for our cloud-based service. What we really want to do is we want to be able to control access to the resources that are associated with the user's account at a finer level of granularity. We don't want to train the user to just give up their password to any app at any time. We want the server to be able to make some decisions about which apps should and shouldn't have access to a user's data. And we'd also like for the user to be able to go and change their password without affecting all of the apps that they want to have access to their data. Similarly, we'd like to be able to go and revoke access to our data just to a specific app. But all of these things aren't really possible, or easy to do at least, with the model where you log in and get a session cookie back that gives apps full access to your account.